can have a seat for a minute. It's just gonna be a minute. I've got a quote that I want to read to you. And then we're gonna pray. You know, I preached a little bit about joy this morning. You know, I think about when I was surprised by joy that day in 1994 when the Lord hit me with the joy of the Lord, the supernatural joy of heaven. It's different from natural. Natural joy comes from good things happening or someone told a joke or something, you know, but the joy of the Lord is supernatural by nature. It's different. It's a different thing. It isn't dependent on circumstances. It's unrelated to circumstances. It's supernatural by nature. And it's Augustine, who I'm going to read the quote from, had this thing about, he called his term for grace was sovereign joy. He called grace sovereign joy. And he believed that the grace or the joy of the Lord had the ability to liberate your will. You see, something terrible happened to humans when they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Their free will became enslaved. Yeah, we have a free will, but you don't have the ability to do what's right because your will's in chains. Your will has been enslaved. And if the Son sets you free, you're free indeed. Your will has to be liberated. Your will has to be liberated. That's the problem. You think you can do it, but you can't. You think you're going to quit smoking, but you don't. You think you're going to quit sleeping around, but you don't. You think you're going to get it together, but you don't. Because you can't. Because, you want to, but you don't have the ability to follow through because, and it's all centered around joy. Pleasure. Everyone say pleasure. Because pleasure is what we follow, whether we admit it or not. Every day you get up, you're chasing pleasure. From that first cup that you smell wake up and smell the coffee, and you got to have some until, whatever it is, but you're chasing joy. Even if it's just going to work, you're looking for that paycheck because there's something you're going to buy that's going to make you happy. It's all about joy. Anyway, this is a quote. This you have to pay attention. I couldn't find it in this translation to put on the overhead, but so you're going to have to listen real carefully. This is Augustine, 400 A.D., North Africa, and this is Confessions, his most famous book. This whole book, it's worth your while to read. The whole book is written in a form of a prayer. The whole thing is a prayer. He says, Lord, I am your servant, born of your handmaid. You've broken the chains that bound me, and I will sacrifice in your honor. Let me praise you in my heart. Let me praise you with my tongue. Let this be the cry of my whole being. That's what we're looking for, where our whole being gets involved in worship. Lord, there is none like you. Let them say this, and in answer, I beg you to whisper in my heart. Lord, whisper in my heart. I am here to save you. I'm here to help you. Who am I, Augustine says? Who am I, and what kind of man am I? And what evil have I not done? Or if there is evil that I have not done, what evil is there that I have not spoken? Or if there's any evil that I have not spoken, what evil is there that I have not willed to do? But you, O Lord, are good. You are merciful. You saw how deep I was sunk in death, and it was your power that drained dry the well of corruption in the depths of my heart. And all that you asked of me was to deny my own will and accept yours. But during all those years, he's talking about of his rebellion, during all those years of my rebellion, where was my free will? What was the hidden secret place from which it was summoned in a moment, so that I might bend my neck to your easy yoke and take your light burden on my shoulders, Christ Jesus, my helper and my redeemer? How sweet all at once it was for me to be rid of those fruitless joys, the pleasures of the flesh. How sweet all at once it was. I love the terminology. How sweet it was for me to be rid of those fruitless joys, which I'd once feared to lose and was now glad to reject. You drove them from me. You who are the sovereign joy. You drove them from me and took their place. You who are sweeter than all pleasure, though not to flesh and blood. You who outshine all light, yet are hidden deeper than any secret in our hearts. You who surpass all honor, though not in the eyes of men who see all honor in themselves. At last my mind was free from the gnawing anxieties of ambition and gain, and from wallowing in filth and scratching the itching sore of lust. I began to talk to you freely, O Lord, my God, my light, my wealth, and my salvation. I love that. This book is pretty incredible. But that chapter, if you can't cope with it, get it and read book 9. It's only one little short chapter. You'll get blown away. You could read it for the rest of your life. You could read that one chapter over and over again every day, and you'll still get lost. You'll get lost on the journey. I remember when I first started reading this, actually was reading a John Piper book that he was recommending. He says, be careful because you might get lost in the Augustinian Alps, he said. You go and you'll never come out. So we want to get lost tonight in his joy. His joy that comes and satisfies the thirsting of our soul. The joy that comes and satisfies that longing that we've had, all of us have had. And at one time in our life, we were trying to fill it with the toys in the sandbox or whatever it was as a child, or then a baseball or a doll, or then it was an academic career, or it was smoking weed, or it was finding the right person, or driving the right car, or getting the right watch, or getting the right job, or making a certain amount of money, or living in the right town, or having the right title behind your name. And you got it, and it never ever scratched the itch. No matter how much you scratched it, it itched more and more. And then you thought, if I could only. And then it never happens. This search that we've searched for is a search for joy. It's a search for pleasure. It's a search for happiness. It's a restless heart searching and searching and searching until you become surprised by joy. Surprised by joy. You thought he was going to be he was demanding, and he was going to make you follow rules, and you're going to have to turn over a new leaf, and you're going to have to try real hard. And then he showed up, and you were filled with joy unspeakable, and he took off the heavy load off your shoulders, and he put a light yoke on your back, his yoke. It was easy, and it was light, because he was carrying it himself. You weren't carrying it, he was carrying it inside of you. And you begin to say, whoa, this is better than I thought. This is more real than I could ever imagine. It's sweeter than the sweetest honey I've ever tasted. Oh, and it does scratch the itch that was the lusting of my soul has been finally satisfied. And now he is my peace. He is my joy. He is my sovereign joy. He is altogether lovely. He is the rose of Sharon. He is the lily of the valleys. He bright and morning star. He is altogether lovely. He is my friend. He is my Lord. He's my guide, my help and my strength, my light and my salvation, my all in all, my God and my King. And it's so simple, but still so hard. It's so hard because we're locked in these bodies, and he helps us escape.